Hello. All right. I'm currently working on things on my plate that I can't really show on the stream so well. I've got a cover that I'm finishing, and I'm working on a very spoilery page of Undersea Heroes, so that's why we're not working on that stuff tonight. I can show off the artwork that I mentioned. I posted this cover, posted the colors for this actually the other day, and this was for my friend Allison's book, The Last Sentinel, and she gave me carte blanche to just do what I thought was a cool cover, and you can check it out on my Instagram or my Facebook. I think it's just on Facebook actually. You can see it there. The full color. It's very bright. I did the lettering. I did the design work. I did all of that. So it's 100% me, and it's a cool book. And bug her about picking herself up a copy. Actually, I'm gonna send her that original. I just gotta figure out where she wants it. This is the sketch cover that I just did for fun one morning while drinking coffee. It is a copy of Death of Spider-Man, Ultimate Death of Spider-Man. It was not a very forgiving cover, so you can see all the little bits and pieces as to where it was difficult, where it would actually, I would use even a gum eraser and it would pull up the ink. This was not a great sketch cover to work on, so. But I did my best, and I think it's a fun cover. It's actiony. The other thing I did recently, and this was something I really enjoyed working on. This is a pinup that I did of my buddy Jay Kennedy's characters, his original characters, for a book called Distracula that he did for years. Some of that stuff here. He did a ton of issues of this book, and they are all self-published, written and drawn by my buddy Jay. You can see the artwork is like vintage Jay, where it has a little bit more of a manga influence in the storytelling and in the panel structure. Yeah, that was another pinup I did for him a long time ago. But I did this for fun. I was kind of having a rough go of it, and I needed to shake some rust off to get my feet moving on pages. So I just decided to draw some of Jay's old characters, and I had fun doing it. It takes place in Boston. It's if you ever sat near Jay or met him at a show, he would be telling you about the dyslexic vampire from South Boston. And I put him in one of those Dunking shirts, for the Dunkin' commercials. And this is the shirt that Greg, the Frankenstein character, wore in several of the issues that just says 160 corpse, and Jay misspelled corpse, so it says 160 core, CORPS on it. And Kenna's the werewolf character, and she's just a punk rock, vulgar, cool lady. So, but those were fun. That was fun to do. But yeah, just throw a comment in at any point, and that's how we'll do it. If nobody comments, I'll keep it. So. Bug Jay about those issues. I'm sure he has some on. So tonight, what we'll do is we'll just do just another drawing for fun. I've got a handful of sketch covers that I still have lying around. I've got Ninja Turtles, Superman, of course, Undersea Hero, The Tick, Batman. I might do a Batman. I don't draw Batman very often. I find him frustrating to draw, but we could take a stab at it. Hey, there's Jay. Jay is in the chat. I did show off the pinup, so people can bug you about finding any of those back issues. Oh, you want me to do Conan? You want to see Conan the Black River? Yeah, this was the Sumerian books. There's a little bit of a ding here, so I've got to plan on having something to cover that. Um, but yeah, these were fun books. These were like the European Conan comics, so they were a little bit more violent. But I thought they were well done. I was leaning towards Batman, but hey, give the people what they want. I haven't done any shows, so I don't know what to do with all these sketch covers. I think I drew on one of these on a stream many moons ago. Jay is working on a new project, so I implore people to go check out his stuff. He's been posting pages as he goes along. I'll just do like try to do a little doodle here. Try to figure out what we want to do. I had an idea for a Batman as I was staring at it. That's why I said Batman, but yeah, Battle Beyond the Black River. Something like that. I don't know. I kind of have an idea for a Batman, so that's why I might go with that. I don't know. It was something like this where, because here they have like spotlights coming up. I'll just draw a part of a building and then just a nice swinging Batman on his bat rope. Maybe even a Robin or a Batgirl. I always like Batgirl. I just don't know if they, you know, if you're doing the Bat family, do you have to do Robin? Do you have to do like all three of them? I don't even know if you can see on this, so maybe that wouldn't be the best one to draw on. All right, well, we'll see what we can come up with. Yeah, I mean, I think that this was a good run, the Adventures series. So yeah, let's give it a shot. Why not? I rarely draw Batman, even though it's like the one big two cover I've ever done. Take a look at my little doodle there. a busy week, so might not be too late of a stream. Been trying to simplify and think about my whole image instead of getting too bogged down in just the shapes. I tend to get bogged down in that stuff. Hey Shane, good to see you, man. Hope all is well in your neighborhood. I keep meaning to bug my buddy Vaz about doing a piece for me after I saw that piece that you got. That was a good one. Douglas says he got an Ultimate Batman. I'm having trouble seeing. Let me close this thing and then go full screen so I can read the comments actually. At the Ultimate Batman sketch cover to do for 4-color fantasies. I requested that specific color out of the several choices because I had an awesome idea. I have no recollection of what that idea was. Isn't that always the case? I'm just trying to come up with just a fun silhouette and then just hopefully that, gives us enough. I don't want to get bogged down. I don't want to spend too much time building all the little pieces because that stuff's really just been slowing me down lately. And I know I need to check my work, but I've just been getting just too lost into the minutia of the Loomis shapes. So I just need to really just trust myself a little bit. So I'm trying to. I'm really trying to. The way the shoulders move, even though that they're attached. So I just kind of got to wing it and trust that I can figure it out. May work, may not. But build that rib cage. I like the when I think about Batman, I actually generally think of a lankier character than the bigger, bulkier character that he's kind of become and he's evolved into. I think about the Jim Aparo Brave and the Bold Batman, or the early Neil Adams, or the Wrightson, or the Toth. It does have a light tint to it, and it's not making the paper difficult to deal with. It's just it'll be interesting because I'll be able to go back in with some white medium, and that'll really, I think, stand out. Just got to make sure I get my proportions correct. They're not correct right now, so we're going to be employing the powerful eraser bit. I've been trying to simplify more, and it's to mixed results. Although one thing I will say about staying in and studying and working more rather than just doing a zillion shows. I really have enjoyed um, not feeling the push and pull of like what's popular and just trying to make my stuff better. I'm not sitting at home wondering like, oh, should I be drawing, pinups of so and so to have at my table or whatever to try to make a few extra bucks at the next show. I'm thinking like, hey, what can I do to make my stuff better in totality? I've got so many sketch books that I've been filling up. I've been really studying Joe Kubert's stuff again lately. I just love it. Love his stuff, especially the early stuff. I'm probably just going to do this one figure on this cover. Gotta get the other shoulder in there. We're missing a shoulder, basically. Hey, Martha's is here. How's it going? I'm doing okay. It's Wednesday. I'm happy to see people. Happy. There's always that first minute and a half of the stream where it's like nobody's coming, and then thankfully my buddies show up. And that's always a great feeling. Hey, Ruben. Good to see you, man. Thank you, sir. I've got to work on a little thingy for my pal Ruben there. He does subscription boxes. So if you're a collector of variants, sketches, all that good stuff, sign books, go give him a follow over on Instagram. My hands are full, but if you want to drop the link in there, Ruben, if you're still around, feel free. Yeah, Douglas, I appreciate that. It keeps me humble. Good for my keep my ego in check. Ruben's already sold out of his subscription box, so congratulations. That's great news. Hey, Scientin, thanks very much. I'm using the darker pencil just so that it's easier for you guys to see instead of the blue. I saw that wasn't showing, so. Gotta get the back of his leg where his keister would be. Try to get a nice bend to that so that it's got some action to it. And then get the foot coming down this way. I gotta fix this leg a little bit. It's gotta get a little more bend to it. It's gotta be a little bit more foreshortened. Big utility belt? I don't know. I was thinking like just the simple, like the Alex Toth version, where it's just kind of simple. Like I said, when I think of Batman in my head, he's not like a big bulky guy, and I know that that's not like the most popular answer for Batman, especially these days. Like everybody thinks of like the Frank Miller version, and then like Jim Lee took the Frank Miller version and uh, really like just kept expanding, expounding on it, commenting on it. I guess like taking those directions and making it slicker and you know adding some Neil Adams dynamic to it. Um, what is the paper quality like? I don't know if this is good for watercolor. It's a little lighter, so I think I'm going to stick to pen and ink and then some dry medium. What I have is I have this got the China marker, which is good for like smoke and like halftones, and then I have some Conti crayon white. Instead of using the square stuff, that's pretty good. And then I always use the white paint, so I think that that'll work okay. Gotta get the inside of that hip right, and then that's where that muscle is, and that's where those are. And it's not that I'm going to fill in those muscles. I just need to have them in the right area so that when I go in and pick out my ink lines, that they'll be kind of in the right place. And what I'm hoping is with the way his hands are, that with a little bit of I'll be able to white out some stuff and then fill in stuff with black so that it will look like it's in front of the logo, even though I don't have any of that gray color to add. I'm trying really not to over render. I know this is something that I think Douglas is excellent at, where he's able to pick out the lines that you need to define it and not overdo it. And I tend to cook stuff, especially when I'm nervous. It's just one of those reactions where it's like, oh, if I add more, it'll work. When in truth, that's like just hiding the flaws behind a whole bunch of extra lines. And I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm just saying, like, that's something I'm guilty of having done for sure. You gotta get the always gotta nail the hands. Like that's kind of my anchor for when I'm looking at a piece, the face and the hands, and then if the feet are showing, the feet obviously. I mean, Batman's got so many iconic facets to his costume that there's a lot of places where you can just kind of lean on the design to pull you through. You know, he's kind of like Spider-Man in that regard, where like the costume has enough stuff going on where you can hide some of those design flaws and those drawing flaws. You know, Spider-Man has the webs all over, and while they take a long time to draw, if you fill them in, people like visually give you credit for that labor, whether it's properly drawn or not. You know, it's one of those things that's easy for people to see. Is like, oh, that took a long time because there's a bunch of lines there. Gotta put a break here. And I found if I slow down too much, my lines gets like kind of even more so stiff and without resilience or movement. So I've got to just keep moving. I think about great artists like Frank Robbins, um, who did Johnny Hazard, who did the Invaders. He did Batman. He did some of my favorite issues, and this says a lot because Kaluta drew most of them of the Shadow comic for DC in the '70s. If you look at those Frank Robbins, because he inked himself on those, they're just dynamite. Um, Doug says he found himself cooking backgrounds lately. It is tough not to over detail once you're on a roll or lacking confidence on whatever specific thing you're doing. I wholeheartedly agree. Like that's Doug says he committed to not cross hatching. That's a good idea. Maybe I'll employ that myself. But I don't really cross hatch. I do add textural elements to the surface of things, and even that, like I'll do it too much to where background elements move forward because there's too much detail in it. And it's a mistake to do that. It's not like, oh, he can draw lots of detail. That's good. That was me just doing too much. Hey Chad, how's it going? Yeah, haven't seen you in a little while. Thanks for popping in. Yeah, we are gonna raffle off just like we did with the Spawn a while back. I like just sending people drawings. I know that that's uh, a weird thing. I just like doing it. I'd actually rather send drawings than you know. uh, It's a lot more fun than when you're trying to sell drawings. Add in a little bit, bend that. Make sure the shoulders have like a nice slant to them. So like the shoulders are kind of got to bend this way, and then the hips bend this way, and then we've got some asymmetrical leg placements. So we're trying to do a lot here. Even though it's just a single figure, there's a lot going on. Hey, it's Ryan. How's it going, man? I saw your message. I'm sorry I didn't get back to you, but I saw it late, and I don't like messaging people. I'm like I was raised to not message people after a certain time, and then I forgot about it. Good evening, Dr. Mask's Retro Elixir. Thank you very much. Um, for people who asked about how I do the raffles, it's just a random number generator. I just number the comments are in order, and I just do them in order based on what's on my screen. I see them all from each platform all in one row, so it's all in based on like it's chronological. So it'll be like the first comment is ticket number 1, and the 30th comment is ticket number 30, and so on and so forth. So we got a lot going on this piece. And just maybe some little tiny bats, and that'll be it. Ryan says he's snowed in with a new puppy. I will live. Well, I mean, you can't just say you have a new puppy and then not send us a picture at some point. So I think them's the rules. I don't make the rules. I just have to live by them as a cog in the giant machine. What am I using to stream? I'm using a program that's called Restream. It actually transmits right out of your browser. If you use OBS or any other interconnecting software, you can use that as well. But I just do it straight through their built-in studio. And there's a little toggle switch that you just hit, and it says chat overlay, and it just puts it right on there. So I take no credit for flipping anything beyond flipping the chat overlay switch. And thankfully, it aggregates like all of the different platform comments. So yeah, and if you use OBS, like I don't, but like you just connect it like you would connect to any other stream software, and they have pretty good support. They've helped me out with some stuff as I've learned how to use it. When I'm looking at this leg looks a little wonky, so I'm going to try to fix this before we go any further. I like that it's coming back down and towards it, so like I want to keep that. I think it's the way the thigh is that looks the most wrong to me. We got to make sure that we get the knee in there proper. So the knee is going to be bending here. So like when you look at your knee when it bends, from that angle, it's going to be a little further back. There we go. A Batman artist that I generally find is for artists that do a little bit more, hatching in detail. Kevin Nolan, incredible artist. Like if you ever get a chance to look at his Batman black and white stories that he's done over the years, and the thing that's amazing about his work is that in addition to just being wonderfully drawn, like as far as his work, like the comics work itself, like he does the whole thing. He hand letters it, he does everything. So it is just like a singular voice. That still looks funky. I don't know what the hell's wrong with it right now. Maybe it's where the hips attach that is catching me off. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's the foot placement. Maybe I needed that to actually be coming up the other way. Oh man, yeah, those Batman black and whites, those early ones. Like I think the first issue had Akira Toriyama or Katsuhiro Otomo. Otomo, yeah, Katsuhiro Otomo, who did Akira. Joe Kubert. It had. Did it have the Neil Adams story in that one too? I don't remember, but man, that was just every issue they just had. More and more good stuff. Now I think it's the hips that are off. And we're gonna backlight our Batman, so that means that some of our shading. I think we'll try to stick to baseline art, and then maybe we can add a little bit of ink wash to try to pull it together. These are not the lines that my hands enjoy doing. And one of the things I've been trying to be better about is like, yes, while I need to show a level of craft, is to also just trust my hand a little bit. Because I think I've spent most of my career drawing in a line that was like trying to be like semi-smooth, and it's like my hands are so shaky. Like you guys wouldn't believe it. Which is why some of my early stuff that was all brush and I did it like faster than you could shake a stick at, it has this cool beat to it, and it has a slickness to it just because of how quickly the ink was laid down, and it all looks intentional. I do wish I could listen to music while I was working on this thing. That would be helpful. But then you get flagged for licensing infringements and all that nonsense. So we can't do that. I totally agree with you, Douglas. Man, true words right there. And I'm trying to be more judicious about where I spend my time on that stuff. Yeah, because Batman's costume has some of those visual benchmarks built into it, like those spikes on the side there of his gloves. The one thing that does make me nervous about this cover is that there's no whiting out mistakes. So This is a brush pen. This is one of the disposable, quote unquote, Kuretake pens. I've got my nice one in here. I guess I could break that one out. It's got a better tip because it's got the what you call it, the sable brush tip. There was a time when I inked exclusively in brush, so like I have thousands of hours of just working in brush. So like when I do that little bouncy line right there, that's when it's moving pretty good. I think the light source is backlit. Asked, is that a new color they started with sketch covers? This one they did is like a special edition for the Batman Adventures. It's got the regular issue on the inside with the beautiful, just stunning Dave Johnson cover. That's more the utility belt I have in my brain. Very simple, just a few pockets. Very simple, just try not to over render, pick out the important spots. Let the brain fill in parts of it. Yeah, the paper's absorbing quite nicely, I would say. And these are the Tombow pens. These are nice. I like these. I'm gonna have to get some more of those. I got a couple to try out. Real simple. Try not to overdo it. I think we're pretty much done with the top there. Yeah, I definitely think about Jim Apato's version when I'm drawing. I know that that's not the book that this is, but let me grab my brush again because this will be. And for my ink, I like to use the Dr. Martin's Black Star Matte just because it has a great finish to it. I think it's probably my favorite ink. Oops, lost my tip. There we go. Yeah, the first Jim Aparo artwork I ever saw was actually on Aquaman in Adventure Comics. And then I saw his Batman in Brave and the Bold. But then later I found his stuff from before he got to DC when he was working at Charlton Comics. And he was not as influenced by Neil Adams at that point. He was more of a like just straight up cartoonist with some like illustration background because he was doing, if you read about his career up to that point, he was doing advertising for the most part, like comps and stuff. Overdo it. Let's see here. Oops, dropped a thing. Sorry. Yeah, he was doing books like the mystery titles there. He did a mysterious suspense. He did, and he did the Phantom. That was like his first regular superhero gig. And I just read the first Phantom stuff that ever came out. The original stuff, the newspaper strip. I got a reprint of some of that, and I can see why it got popular compared to like the other, especially from a writing standpoint. The other strips of the day were not necessarily well written, and I thought the writing was very dated. But when you look at it, at the landscape of what was coming out at that time, it was one of the better written strips. Black that out. Joe St. Pierre. Yeah, I found a copy of the first reprint of the dailies, um, the Singh Brotherhood. it was only reprinted all together with all of the originals, either in those expensive archive editions or the Australian um, publication, which was what I picked up. I just never read it. It was one of those blind spots in my reading. Yeah, I was just looking forward to read that. You can also read them online for free, but I have a hard time after like working all day on a computer staring at a screen for my leisure time at home. I think I'll leave that part white. Oh, cool. You and your mom used to read The Phantom together. I used to watch Nick at Night with my mom, who loved the George Reeves Superman and the Linda Carter Wonder Woman. So, cheers to our moms. This is where it takes a little bit of trusting where you're blacking out with the ink, like so much space, and just picking out the important shapes that catch the light. Joe, I'll shoot you a link when I get off of here. There's just a website where, because they're so old, they're public domain, where you can read all kinds of stuff like that. There's also a Phantom like fan site where you can read them, and they have the first two, I think. The what was it? The Air Maidens is the second one, and the Sing Brotherhood's the first one. And it's interesting because Lee Falk actually pencils and does the layouts for like the first, I don't know, few weeks worth of episodes. And then they switch over to Ray Moore, who was inking over him. So I don't know. Because he was writing both the Phantom and Mandrake the Magician, so I guess it was just probably a time saver. I'm gonna have to bug you, Joe. We've been talking on the stream about getting our pals together and doing another public domain anthology. So I know I know you have ideas of some public domain characters. Maybe you can do a pinup or something. I know you're a busy man. With your new book in stores now, or is it next week? New Zodiacs in stores now? Question mark. See, when you erase those pencils and those simplified lines are there, I don't know, just a synergy starts to happen. And if I add more lines, like my brain wants to add more lines, I have to tell my brain no. February 27th. Hit up your local comic book store, new Zodiacs, #1 on the shelf for the new character, Cricket. If you dig supernatural investigations and adventure, highly recommended. I did do a previous public domain book. I don't think you can find it anywhere because it was done like 20 years ago. I might have a copy here. And this was yeah, years and years ago. Dime Box Comics, where we did the and you know, my buddies all just got together and we did a handful of pages together. Um, they did a Sub Saunders story. And this was back when I was really rough, really trying to do markers, and then we did because we couldn't afford color, so we did grayscale. Here's Jay's. Jay did Space Smith. My buddy Nate Lovett, who has done Spider-Man and all kinds of stuff, he did the Black X. I have an idea for two different public domain characters. So um, you you probably would only find it in a dollar bin on the East Coast somewhere, unfortunately. But I may have. I'll look around and see if I can find something. Especially if you win the raffle for the Spider-Man sketch, I would just throw it in with it for you. I don't even know what time it is. 9:10, man. I've been cruising right along. It's later than I thought it was. Oh, got a question from Trevor. Do you use a type of model for shape, shadow placement, anything like that? It depends. It depends if it's a really heavy lighting situation. This is just sort of a neutral lighting. You'll see when I add my grayscale bits to it, what I'm thinking with the stuff. Just because I've been overdrawing the line art, and the lighting on this, you'll see that I use really simple lighting techniques. I'm not one of those guys that generally uses 2-point lighting. Not because I don't like it, I just don't. I find it distracting when I'm working on it. But you'll see when I throw in those grayscale bits, because I was trained more as a painter, um, and I moved to pen and ink over the years, and then fell in love with comics. You got to do pen and ink. So, but yeah, most of my like training is as a painter. So. Now, because we have this white area here, we can create a layer by having the dark area behind him where his cape is. And the other cape bit goes that way. I don't know if I want that there. Let's move that over. I don't want it to conflict with the rope. So I might just leave that out. Yeah. It's one of those design choices I'm making just because of the happenstance of the situation. You know, some people, and I would always try to add more at the inking stage. And when I think it fits, I still do. But on pieces like this, I'm trying to pull back on it. Because I think that when I overdraw, I show definitely my flaws as an artist more. Like, I think there's diminishing returns on what I'm putting down on the paper. I think we're going to have to black out the logo for the most part. Well, we'll see what we can do. I actually think we can go back in with white and pull out what we want if we want to. But we'll just keep drawing. We'll work our way through it. I go slightly longer, I think. It depends on the shot. Like if I'm trying, because here I didn't want to create a tangent with that touching his arm, so I pulled it down a little bit so there's a gap. And I intentionally covered this one. So I wanted to have the ear, but I wanted it to have a little bit of height to it. I like the yeah, and Joe, I like when you go with like more. You tend to lean in with some of the golden age, even Batman, like the old Batman. There was that one pinup he did. I don't remember if it was a sketch cover, but he had like his hands in front of him, and yeah, it was just it just it's so much energy to him. And I know you have a ton of influences, but I always think of your work exudes like so much action. It always reminds me of like the Kirby and the way the shapes and the foreshortening and everything. And when you apply that to Batman, that's something that like not a ton of artists do. So I just always thought that was cool. It gives it like a different power to them. All right, well, let's see what it looks like when we pull off the rest of this pencil. And then what I like to do is I've got my ink wash here. And these two, I usually have 2 tones of that when I do an ink wash. Hey, thanks so much, Joe. I'll send you a link to that reading the what you call it, the uh, Phantom Strips online thing before I boot down for the night. Let me grab my circle template real quick. Should be in here. There it is. Cool. Sorry about that. But yeah, we're gonna drop this in behind him. What's the biggest circle we got on this thing? It's one of those days I need like a DVD that's even a little bigger. Let's see where we're at. An eyeball. Doing pencil first and see where we're at. I actually want to lower it. See how that looks. What do you think about right there? I just don't think it's big enough. I think we need like a CD or something. Let me see if there's anything right here. Plate. It's one of those days where it's like, why didn't I leave a plate in the studio? I usually do. While I think about how I do that, we're just gonna give the indications of a city here. Doesn't have to be perfect because it's just going to be a silhouette, so we can just add in different layers using some really simple depth techniques of having small shapes and big shapes interlocking with one another, overlapping. In this case, cleaning up did not pay. If I had my little snack plate, I think we'd be golden. It's the same size. I don't know. I might have to run into the other room and grab one. Really simple. It's just a sketch cover. It's not like I have to go in and get, reference for the Narrows in the Batman movie so that it looks just like it. I just need the indication of a city. And we're going to do something I haven't done in a long time on this cover. If I can find my bleed-proof white paint, if that's around here, we're gonna do something cool. I'm not sure. Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. Yep, we're gonna be able to do a cool thing. I'm just really doing just repetitive vertical strokes that give the indication of kind of a city. I actually have to darken this in because that ink was a little soft. Some of the ink that comes in these pens is not as good as like the India ink because that'll last forever, and you can see already there's like a variation in the tonality. Maybe I can text my wife. Maybe she'll bring me a. Oh wait, I think there's a CD right over here. Hold on. Hold on. There's a CD. Let's see if that'll do it. There we go. All right. This should work perfectly, just like the old days. Oh, I found one. There we go. Nice simple shape. That'll work perfect. Nice circle. This is a CD. Yeah. It's slightly bigger than the circle that I had before, so it'll do nicely. And draw ourselves some bat silhouettes. What's a CD? Come on, Douglas. We're old enough to be. It's 6 free hours of America Online. That's the CD. They sent it to me in the mail. It's the America Onlines. Don't you remember? They'd send you the CD in the mail, or it would come in a magazine subscription. They'd be like, please sign up for the America Online. I still have plenty of Blu-rays and DVDs because like there's so many movies I like that bounce from place to place, and there are movies that never got transferred over. I actually watched a documentary actually about an actor who her entire career was on VHS, and it was all like the '80s slasher stuff, and like most of the movies she was ever in actually never made it to DVD even. I just found that interesting that, as that media disappeared, that person's like entire body of work disappeared. We can keep adding more and more of that stuff. I'm going to erase some of this stuff. It's actually getting late. Didn't necessarily want to be on here super long. It's okay. That is okay. Now what we're going to do, we're going to try to draw that circle with a white pencil instead of the blue, and not ink it because we don't want a black line around the outside. Netflix was originally DVDs that they'd send you in the mail. That's what it was. Because what I want to do is I actually want to fill in the moon to be completely white. So you can see right there, I don't know how well it stands out, but you can see the white circle where the moon will be. And let's see how our ink levels are. We should be good. This is like I would describe it as, say, a 20% gray. So what we'll do is it's like our light source is behind us, so we need to start over here. We'll see how well it handles this. I don't know. I hadn't originally intended on doing any ink wash on it, but I think it needs it for the piece. We'll take it light. Try not to overdo it. Oh, thanks, Martha. So we'll probably add a little bit more building and some more bats, but I wanted to get this moving along because I wanted to really try to get a finished piece. Wanted to simplify. Like I said, when I add too much detail, I don't think it makes it better. Like I think it's a diminishing return, and that's so it's defeating because um, at least I did. I thought that like, oh, this is the right thing to do. This is the good thing. Adding a ton of detail. People always comment about the detail, and I respond to that. And I've learned that that's probably not the best route for my particular skill set. Martha says she got shut out by an Amazon Kindle thing, a downloadable coloring book. I didn't know they did those on Kindle. Like you can color it on Kindle. That's interesting. Okay. Now, what we will do for the cape is I'm going to see if this will work. And this is just, a little bit of an experiment. We're going to finish erasing this portion. I want to see what the Conti crayon line will look like if we just... I'm going to wait for that to dry a little bit. Let's see what our second gray tone looks like. This is a much heavier gray tone, so I want to see what it'll look like when we hit the paper with this. Although I'm a little worried. It's going to be too dark. So let's see what it looks like when we hit. I think we need a heavier black added to that. I think that's what's missing. I think we need to come in here like this and much more direct. Darker areas. Just expand on those. I would love to black this out, but I'm just a little nervous with the rope. So what if we come down like this and come up like that? See if that works. Lose that. Bring that in. Let's bring it in a little bit more. See how close we can get it without breaking that line. And I think we have to black this part out like that. And fully black that out. I think what we need to do is what I initially intended to do was pull this over like this and pull it up. And we're gonna have to add just a tiny bit of white, and we're gonna have to trust that we can pull that off. Because I think it's a better piece if we can. Black that out. I'm not adding more detail, I'm just trying to frame it better. This needs to be a little thicker. There we go. Okay. I think we can add some more here. Lose that whole thing. We don't want to create a tangent at the wrist. So we're going to have to actually pull it even further. Ah, that's annoying. That's all right. There we go. Yeah, we're going to white this whole thing out. There's going to be a white box there, and then I'm going to use, hopefully, our darker. I'm going to flip this over because there's a back, and I don't have to worry about the back. I just want to see how that looks. That actually looks better than the lighter one. So I'm going to not worry about it, and I'm going to actually pull this by going just straight in. We'll just go for it and hope for the best. It's just a sketch cover, right? Nobody's commissioning this. This isn't being published. We'll just have some fun. And then what I'll do is I'll go back in with white and pull out those little areas that need to be pulled out. And it should push his cape back, which is what we want. Gotta move fast on this thing, otherwise it absorbs really quickly. That's one thing I did notice. Move quick, move quick. Bit of squeeze, gives you a little more liquid to lay down. Hopefully when it fully dries, it'll regulate a little bit. So, but we'll see. We'll see if we can pull it off. And pull some white in here. think we can go in here, pull out these highlights on the gloves. I might come in with some paint just to solidify that a little bit more. We definitely need to fill out the eyes with white. I'm going to need a tiny, tiny brush to do that. Go. Is that white paint marker or map color? This is Conti crayon. This is actually like an old French technique. So like you can get it either just in little blocks or you can get it in a pencil. I prefer the pencil because it's not quite as messy. I also want to test this on my on the back here just to see how it does. That looks pretty good. So what we will do now is we will erase the bottom here, and then I want to add a little bit of wash to the background, and then we'll white out our moon and see how we're doing. Because I think we're going to have to add some hard white because the pencil, just a few little pulls here and there. Not big ones, not too many. And not everywhere, just a few here and there. There. Yeah. Let me just test one more thing on the back. Hey, thanks, Trevor. You too. I'll catch you later. It looks pretty good to me. Let's see if we can. I don't want to lose my line thickness, so if I end up with just a little bit of a bit of gray around the figure, I don't mind. Oh, working on the coloring book. Gotcha. I wasn't sure what you were talking about. You were putting out a coloring book. Gotcha. sure I'm running later than I had intended. I was like, oh, I'll just do a quick sketch cover. Less detail, blah, 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 blah. Here we are. Later than ever. I can see right here where the white kind of got into my line art, and I'll go in and I'll try to pull that back a little bit, that nice little edge there. Oops, that was a mistake. Sometimes you can pull it out a little bit, but we'll have to figure out a different way to exit that part out. Or we'll just ignore it. We'll just pretend like that mistake did not happen. Not today. I do think I'm going to grab my ink wash, and I just want to see how it's going to look when I go into this. Just a little bit. Now, this is something that I know Toth would not do, but I just love ink wash, so I'm going to throw in just a little bit of tone around. As a watercolor guy, ink wash is like it's actually an easier version of watercolor because you don't have to worry about color theory or layering. Yeah, I'll work around the little bats. That's okay. It doesn't bother me. In some places, I'll leave it a little gray so that it's a little stylized. Those design choices that we talk about. And like I said, I might add some more bats in, I might not. If we come up here, we might be able to hide this a little bit if we add a little gray there. I'm not going to add any white to the bats because we want those to stay firmly in the background. And looking at this, I definitely want to add just a little bit of white here. And then this part needs just that little bit of white there. And then a little bit of white here. Just a little bit. So we don't lose his hands. And I'm going to have to use a paintbrush to get in on those little tiny bits. So and I want to add to, what's the... The reason I did the little bats first is because I didn't think that the ink on top of the whiteout would blend in like it does some. You can get away with it on some media. I just didn't think it would on this paper, this colored paper. Exactly, yeah. It's a retro type Batman. That's why when they showed off the artwork for what was it, the new super armored gigantic Batman that has like really talented people working on it, and I'm sure it is well crafted. It's just not my thing. Absolute, that's what it is. Absolute Batman. I like all different interpretations. Like I'm sure there's plenty that I like that other people don't like. And I don't even know if I like that one because I can't say I haven't read it. But just based on what they were promising in the promos and stuff, I just was like, if I catch it in the future, great. If not, there's so much Batman out there, and there will continue to be so. If it wasn't like the gray paper, I would go more just at some of this stuff. I'm a little hesitant just because of the gray paper. World's greatest detective. Exactly. Yeah. Those Brave and the Bolds that I grew up reading, like the artwork is great, but some of the scripts are not super hot. Like I'm not a big fan of Bob Haney's stuff as far as writing goes. So like anytime there was like a Len Wein or somebody else popped in to write an episode, I was always Marty Pasco. I think wrote a couple. There were a few that were done by different people. I was always stoked. Let me see if I've got my bulletproof white and a brush within arm's length. Some bulletproof white. Do I have any tiny brushes in arm's length? That should do it. There's a drop of water in this. And there it is. Great. So all I need is a drop. This is bleed proof white. It's an old photographer's material that they used to use when editing photos for newspapers because it creates different levels of transparency and opacity. And opacity is the correct word, not really transparency. And it was used for many, many years. And I'm using it now to try to get in here. Yeah, it's just a little bit. I'm actually going to have to go in and reshape those eyes just a little bit, but it's okay. There we go. If we want to, we can go in and fill a little bit more here. But what we can do, where you have those eyes that need some work, is we can take one of our pit pens. Push this back a little bit. There we go. I guess I should have put just a little bit on the utility belt. Based on how that dried, I am going to come back in with just a little more wash, and then I think we'll call it. Oh, that's right. I was going to put a little bit of light over here. I don't think it needs it. I think that would push it too far forward, so we're going to skip that. Before this dries, I'm going to use the other one just to blend it a little bit. Got saturated fast over there. Hopefully it pulls back a little bit. Otherwise, we're going to have to go back in. See what we can do. I think we're going to have to come back up here, saturate, just so that we have a similar finish. Yeah, these you can get just at any old. I actually saw them at Michael's, but you can get them on Blick. They're just refillable, and I just put different temperatures of ink wash in them. And I'm just better at ink wash than I am with markers. I'm terrible with markers. And, I'll probably noodle on this thing a little bit here and there, but, we did a whole full figure piece on camera, so. Add our white line there. Erase this stuff around his foot. Let's sign it over here. There we go. So thanks everybody for coming and hanging out, and it was a fun sketch cover to do. So we will raffle off that Spider-Man thing. I'll get that done tonight. I'll let the winner know who they are, or it'll probably be tomorrow. Actually, it's 10 o'clock. We ran late, so it'll probably be tomorrow. But I'll announce the winner on Facebook, and I'll get that sketch cover to you. And thanks everybody for coming to hang out. And yeah, I hope to see you all next week, and have a good night.